News on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good evening, welcome to your evening's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Before we get to the news in detail, let's get to today's front page comment of the Kaieteur News. Why are we poor? The difference between those poor and rich nations is not the age of the nation. This can be demonstrated by countries like India and Egypt, which are far more than 2,000 years old and are still poor countries. On the other hand, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, which 150 years back were insignificant, today are developed and rich countries. The difference between the poor and the rich nation does not also depend on the available natural resources. Japan has limited territory, 80% mountainous, unsuitable for residence, agriculture, or farming, but is the world's third largest economy. The country is like an immense floating factory, importing raw materials from across the whole world and exporting manufactured products. Executives from rich countries who interact with their counterparts from poor countries show no significant intellectual differences. The racial or color factors also do not evince importance. Many migrants are heavy in laziness in their countries of origin but are forcefully productive in rich European countries. What then is the difference? The difference is the attitude of the people, molded for many years by education, moral responsibility, and culture. If you analyze the conduct of the people from the rich and developed countries, it is observed that a majority abide by the following principles of life. Ethical behavior as a basic principle, integrity, responsibility, the respect for laws and regulations, respect for the majority of citizens towards others, democracy, the love of work, the effort to save and invest, the will to be productive, punctuality. In the poor countries, a small minority follow these basic principles in their daily lives. We are not poor because we lack natural resources or because nature was cruel towards us. We are poor because we lack attitude. We lack the will to follow and teach these principles of working like that of the rich and developed societies. We are in this state because we want to take advantage of over everything and everyone. We are in this state because when something is done wrong, we say, let it be, whereas we should have a spirited memory and attitude. Only then will we be able to change our present state. With that being said, let us move on to the news in detail. The Liza Unity oil vessel, which will support ExxonMobil's second production development offshore Guyana, is expected to sail from Keppel Shipyard in Singapore for Guyana by mid-2021, according to President and Chief Operating Officer of Hess Corporation, Greg Hill. The development of this project is estimated to cost a total of $6 billion. It will target 600 million barrels of oil. Notably, Hill told analysts that the installation program to be implemented at this site could result in completion a little bit earlier than expected if everything goes right. And now let's tell you, many countries have had their time with oil and found decades after first oil that there was a lot they could have done better to secure value for their people. In Guyana, 6 years after the first commercial oil discovery, the country has failed to place basic regulatory mechanisms and legislative necessities in place to manage this sector. Guyana's preparation for oil has been slothful, and it is very likely ExxonMobil will wipe out the proven reserves of the Stabroek Block in less than 2 decades. Using a simple projection of production numbers based on public statements by ExxonMobil and its partners, we can show that ExxonMobil could wipe out the proven reserves by 2036. And now let's tell you, Suriname began preparing its people for the challenges that come with an oil and gas sector. This was 6 years after, that should be before, it had even struck oil in its offshore basin. And by developing and strengthening its capacity ahead of time, Suriname was not only able to capitalize from looming revenues, but take full control of its lucrative sector. unlike Guyana. This is according to CEO and Managing Director of Suriname Statsoli, Rudolf Elias. Regarding how Suriname was able to get ready for the considerable resources discovered in 2020, Elias revealed a three-part strategic plan, which first came with preparing Suriname's national oil company, Statsoli. And moving on, Attorney General Anil Nandlal has initiated legal proceedings against Brian Tiwari of BK Marine Inc. on behalf of the state to reclaim the prime waterfront property, which he had paid $20 million for, though the property is worth $5 billion. That property is situated at Mud Lots 1 and 2, Lot F of Mud Lots 3, and Lots A and B and D, North Commingsburg, was offered for sale by BK by then NISIL CEO Horace James for $202,602,759. And moving on, former Speaker of the National Assembly and ANAG leader Ralph Ramkaran has posited that Guyana must work hard to gain wider support in the international community so it can secure its victory in the border controversy with Venezuela. He said that this will require an expansion of Guyana's border department. Ramkaran's recommendation came with much urgency, as just days earlier, a Venezuela Navy vessel had intercepted two Guyanese fishing vessels. The vessels were in Guyana's territory, but Venezuela, has lately reinvigorated its claims on the Essequibo. And now let's tell you, a 74-year-old man is the country's 181st COVID-19 fatality. He resided in Georgetown. It was noted that the man died while receiving treatment at a medical facility. The ministry also reported 41 new cases of the virus. The number of cases has increased to 8,023. The ministry's COVID-19 dashboard also revealed that 7 patients are in the COVID-19 ICU, 817 in home isolation, 41 in institutional isolation, and 8 in institutional quarantine. Additionally, a total of 6,977 persons have recovered from the virus, with 11 new recoveries recorded today. And that brings us to the end of this evening's newscast. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Coming up next at exactly 19 hours 20 is The Glenn Law Show. Tell it as it is.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio.